have seen the torch of freedom pass from hand to yearning hand, and the vision of our fathers spread hope throughout this land, as the dream some fought and died for in my heart becomes my own. I will strive to keep her promise, America, my home. America, America, may God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my home. From the shorelines to the prairies, to the cities great and small, we have reaped the fruits of justice and liberty for all. So
with deep appreciation for the blessings of freedom that we know in this wonderful land of ours, I'm Dr. George Simon, welcoming you to another edition of Character Matters. This is the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we face and that affects so many areas of our lives. And if you want to join the conversation tonight, the number to call is 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296 by land, cell, or Skype, and I'll be happy to take your call. Well, another wonderful round of workshops last week in Louisiana and in Alabama, starting in Mobile, Alabama, then moving on to Baton Rouge, and then New Orleans. And boy, did I learn a lot of things on this trip. For example, I learned that Mardi Gras actually had its origins in Mobile, Alabama. I didn't know that. And they have a pretty good festival there that I just missed, of course, when I came down there. And the other thing I got to know is that when you're in New Orleans, you better not go out too early for dinner, because a lot of the restaurants don't open back up for dinner until 6 o'clock or after. And here I am in the beautiful city of New Orleans, where there are so many fantastic places to eat. And what should I have to face or to contend with but the fact that I have but a few hours before I have to retire early and be prepared for my next day's workshop. So what do? At 5 o'clock, I go looking for a place to eat, and there's so many wonderful options. It looks like no place that's open. So here I am in this wonderful city, and the only place that I can get something to eat nearby is a Jimmy John's restaurant. And so there I am in this beautiful place with so many options, having Jimmy John's for dinner. It's pretty pathetic when you stop to think about it. But that's the way it is. At any rate, we have a lot to talk about tonight. It's been a while. Last week, I was not live, so I was not able to take your calls, but I can tonight. And the number to call is 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. Well, I finished posting on the series of the 10 Commandments of Character, finishing up with commandment number 10, being of sincere and humble heart and purpose. And we'll be moving on to some new topics on my blog at manipulative-people.com. By the way, the blog is undergoing revisions now, and so drgeorgesimon.com, my website, and my blog at manipulative-people.com have been merged into one. So that's drgeorgeKsimon and manipulative-people.com are both now on the same site. Both URLs will lead you to that same place. And I'm happy to say that there'll be more revisions later, even. There are more to come. One of the problems that we had, as many of the subscribers to the blog know, is that as we have upgraded our subscription service, as is often the case with these technological wonders, we have a new and better subscription service, but in upgrading that service, a lot of our folks dropped off the automatic notification email list. So they weren't getting notifications of that a new post had been placed on the blog, that a new article had posted like it usually does on Friday evenings or usually Friday late afternoon or early evening. So we're working on that. We're working to restore our mailing list, and I would encourage you folks who do want to read the articles, who do like to read the articles, to reapply for mailings on posts that are submitted each week. Get back on the subscription list. We'll do our best to get you on there beforehand, but you can always sign back up yourself, and that might be a good thing to do. So we got a lot to talk about today, not the least of which is the fact that we continue to see so much division within our country, so much division within the world, and so much division even within families. It's a bit sobering. It's a bit sobering, more than a bit. And it's a pretty daunting task to think about how we're going to bridge those gaps. How we're going to make this world whole again. How we're going to take that next quantum leap, that quantum evolutionary leap, and realize our full potential. Because we run the risk, of course, we always have, of destroying ourselves. There are so many possibilities. On the technological end, we are advancing so quickly. There are so many rays of hope for the future. And yet there seem to be those forces holding us back, those political and ideological forces that seem to want to keep us in a sort of evolutionary dark age. And, all of us need to do our part, especially people of faith, people who at least profess to be of a faith, all of which are designed to bring people closer to the ultimate truths of life. There are some folks who, understandably so, have just kind of thrown in the towels when it comes to any religious practice because of all of the horrible things that have been done. against one another under the name of God or under the name of any religion, under the banner of some religion or some religious cause. We've done horrible things to each other. So it's very understandable that some folks have just thrown in the towel there and rejected all forms of organized faith. But at the core is this desire of the human heart to know its worth and its place in this vast creation, this vast universe. We all want to find that ultimate relationship. And sometimes it just eludes us. It just eludes us. What really eludes us is the way to talk to one another and come together. That's what eludes us. We all want the same things. We're all hungry. We're all spiritually hungry for the same thing. So why is it that these barriers go up? These barriers between us. Why is it that we separate one another? We separate ourselves from one another. It's a good question, don't you think? But a better question is, what do we need to do to bridge these gaps? What do we need to do to start to come together? Learning how to talk to one another would be a start. But it's certainly not the only way. I'm anxious to hear your views on this. So if you have any ideas on how we're going to build some bridges, how we're going to make some peace, how we're going to make this world a better place by bringing people, ideas, and communities together again, especially at the family level, how we're going to do this, I'd like to hear from you. Number to call, of course, is 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. My wife and I were talking just today. A couple we know, a couple we've known for a while. They're headed toward divorce. Been married some time, have a beautiful family, beautiful children. But they've done some things that can't be taken back. They've done some things that can't be taken back. There are certain emotional boundaries that when we allow ourselves to cross, saying hateful things, doing hateful things, making harsh judgments. When we do these things, it leaves a mark. It leaves a mark. It's damaging to relationships. And it's all too common these days. It's all too common because we, I think it isn't that we've forgotten how to love. It's that we many times haven't learned how. Sometimes our models were not very good. Sometimes what we witnessed biased us, left wounds in our heart. And sometimes we just never really learned the fundamentals. Nobody ever taught us. or those who were supposed to teach us didn't know themselves how to teach us. The human heart is a funny thing. But it is who we are. It's what we have. We are not that persona that we project to others. That's not who we are. It is not who we are. And when we don't open ourselves up, when we don't make ourselves vulnerable, when we don't unabashedly and proudly declare who we are, not vainly proudly, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about unreservedly, unashamedly, not vainly. When we don't do that, we deny ourselves opportunities for love, and we deny others the love that we're so capable of. That's why the 10th commandment I've been writing about is so important, to be of genuine heart and purpose, to be real, to be open, and to be humble at the same time. In this all about me age, it's not all about me at the heart, it's all about me in the ego. It's all about me in the ego. So, I don't know what your thoughts are on the topic, but I know from my own experience of doing counseling for many, many, many years that there are too many wounded hearts out there. And if we're to make this world a better place, we have to do a lot of mending of hearts. A lot of mending of hearts. And I'm not sure how we do that. It's a daunting task. We're only going to bridge all those gaps that we need to bridge and build all those bridges that we need to build by converting hearts one at a time. One at a time. Starting with our own. There's that great song that Michael Jackson made popular again. I'm starting with the man in the mirror, asking him to change his ways. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make that change. Powerful lyrics. So, once again, if you want to join the conversation tonight, maybe you have some thoughts on the topic, how we're going to build some bridges, how we're going to heal some hearts, how we're going to encourage and foster and bring about this revolution, basically, of thought and mind and of heart that we need to enter the new phase of our evolution as a species. If you have some thoughts on that, give us a call at 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. 8296. Well, I'm not sure if this person is listening tonight. I'm not going to mention any names. We had an interesting event at one of my workshops in New Orleans. A woman who I pray is doing well right now, who suffers from a heart malady where the heart wall is hardened, and she referred to it as Bernie Mac's disease, the same kind of disease that afflicted Bernie Mac. And along with that comes some heartbeat irregularities, some anomalies that cause the heart to stop temporarily and go into a minor arrest. And she had an episode during one of my workshops. It was about 3/4 of the way through the workshop when this occurred, and it was really kind of a magical event in many respects, because you could see the interconnectedness that we all have to have with one another at play as this woman was having her episode and we were waiting for help to arrive. There happened to be a nurse attending who was very adept at guiding her to a better place imagery-wise while she was panicking having this episode. And there were others there to comfort and to assist and just lend their support because sometimes these episodes, as it was the case this time, can be very, very terrifying. So everyone rallied around, and it was really pretty much a beautiful sight. And if you're listening tonight, you'll know who you are. I am hoping and I'm praying that all went well, and that when you got to the hospital, they were able to figure out what they needed to do to help you not have such episodes in the future, and that you're doing well. I wish I'm going to take a liberty here. I'm going to take a liberty because I thought it was so beautiful. There's really no confidentiality here to take liberty with, but I just want to share something with you that really touched me beyond measure. As this woman was dealing with her ordeal, and obviously in a great deal of emotional pain and some panic as it was going on, to help her to the best of her ability to stay calm through it all and not let panic overcome her. To help her do this, one person asked her to imagine or to verbalize the most beautiful place that she'd ever been, to describe it, the most beautiful place that she had ever been. And you wouldn't believe the answer that she gave. What do you think the answer she gave was? The answer she gave was that the most beautiful place that she had ever been, or that she could even imagine, or that she had ever seen, was in her husband's arms. Isn't that beautiful? Her relationship meant that much to her. She found that much beauty in it. She found that much beauty in it. Wow. So that tells me That tells me that even in our character impaired times, there are these relationships that are as they were meant to be, tender, sincere. It was beautiful. And I surely hope if this person is listening, that she is well. You know who you are. I hope you are well. I hope you live a long life. And I hope you have the joy, not only of your own relationship. I hope it is as beautiful and as joyful as you conceive it to be. But I hope you know how many hearts you touched that day, uh, even through your ordeal. You brought people together. You brought us all into a greater appreciation for how precious this life is. Well, I also want to talk about. I also want to talk about what's going to be coming up on the blog in the next series of articles and some other things. But once again, if you want to join the conversation tonight, the number to call is 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. Oh, one thing I definitely do want to mention. I cannot tell you how impressed I was at the hospitality. You know, we've always heard about quote unquote Southern hospitality, end quote. And sometimes, you know, that kind of charm can be fairly superficial. But I want to say, in the three places that I was this past week, I cannot remember people so genuinely warm and accommodating. It was unbelievable. Even during the ordeal for this woman that I spoke of just moments ago who had this medical emergency, the entire staff of this host hotel was most remarkable. And the genuineness and the benevolence of spirit they showed was just heartwarming. It tells me that there are still some really good souls out there, some really good souls. And we need to recognize that. And we need to come together. We genuine and caring souls need to ally. We can make this world a different place. We can make it a better place. We can make it a much better place. And it starts with us. It starts with us in our closest relationships. Those are the nurturing grounds. But it starts with us first. We change our hearts. Then we affect the hearts of those closest to us. And growing in those kinds of relationships, then we affect the hearts of others. And that's how we do it. I'm not sure how we're going to bridge the gap on this political divide, which only seems to be getting greater. You know, last week, the Congress finally began deliberating this so-called fix, repeal, and replace of Obamacare. And of course, our grandiose president labeled it as beautiful right on the front end, of course, because it had his stamp of approval, even though in private he was expressing doubts. And even though he had already compromised on several things that he said he wouldn't, because he frankly didn't know what he was talking about on the front end. He even dared to say, oh my gosh, he even dared to say that nobody, I repeat, nobody knew how complicated this matter was. Go figure. Well, everybody knew how complicated the matter was, except apparently him, who said that he would fix it on day one because he knew what he was doing and nobody else did. What arrogance. Oh my God, what arrogance. But that kind of ego appears to be what it takes these days to get yourself into this seat of power. And that in itself is a really sad statement. It's been a long time, really a long time, since a person of really humble heart had that office. Somebody I could really admire for their character. And as it turns out, that the last person that I could feel that way about actually didn't do that great a job as president in many areas, although he did do some wonderful things, a couple very notable things, including helping make a peace that endured that nobody even thought possible. It's just amazing to me. Absolutely amazing to me how commonplace and how desensitized we are to character disturbance. It's very sad. It's very sad. And we will have to turn the tide. We will have to do so. Our very lives and welfare depend upon it. But bridging this political divide is going to be a real challenge, a real challenge. So, I don't know. Maybe you have some ideas on it. Maybe you have some ideas on how the polarities that have developed within our political system can be addressed successfully so that these deep divisions can be healed and we can honestly work together. As I was saying moments ago, this plan has now been introduced, and everybody's got a problem with it, of course. Everyone's got a problem. And whether or not folks will be able to work out their differences, I don't know. I just don't know. I pray it's true. I just don't know that it will be true. My wife and I are going to be working later tonight on some copy for a pilgrimage for peace effort. It's just a yearly walk by concerned members of the community in our area to help promote peace and bringing folks together from a wide coalition from a lot of interested groups, different faith groups, different community groups, different populations, all races, creeds, gender, folks of different gender, sexual orientation and sexual identity. We are one community, whether we like it or not, whether we realize it or not, whether we appreciate it or not. And when we put up these barriers to each other, these artificial boundaries, we we only create hurt, only hurt. To me, the greatest single task before us, the greatest single task before us is to realize our full potential as human beings by unleashing this tremendous power that we have to love. We can love. And we can love one another a hell of a lot better than we've been doing. And we can take care of one another. We can't force this. Folks have tried that. Folks have tried with political systems that basically make people make people be generous. Refuse to allow people to have control over their own destiny. Plan everything out. Plan the economy. Seize all property. We've had that tried. You cannot force people. And you destroy incentive. It has to be free from the heart. People have to be free from the heart to not only want to prosper themselves, but to help all others prosper. Because that's when we're strong and that's when we're truly safe. Because we are the only species on the planet that's capable and willing to do harm to each other. So it takes an awful lot of love, and we can unleash that up. We can unleash that power. But we have to have that internalized moral compass. We have to have that vision. We have to have that bigger picture in our mind's eye of how this all works together, that we're part of something, that we're part of something bigger than ourselves, part of something much bigger, that it's not all about us, that it's not all about us. Oh my. What can I say? It's so hard to put into words what I know we have to do. And really, for my part, all it's really about is starting right here with the man in the mirror and doing my part. That's why I've been kind of on a bit of a crusade for a while, doing these workshops, doing all the writing that I've done in my books, In Sheep's Clothing and Character Disturbance and the Judas Syndrome and How Did We End Up Here, and my new book that will, one of these days pretty soon, be out, The 10 Commandments of Character, How to Lead a Significant Life. That's been my effort. That's been my effort to help make of us all that we can be. But now my focus is shifting once again, and my work has been informed by a new light, a new light. So it won't be long before I'll be getting off the road and not doing workshops anymore. Not nearly as many. Maybe 3 or 4 times a year. Maybe 4 or 5 times a year. But certainly not like I have been doing. And of course, I'll still be doing some writing on the blog, especially. But one thing for sure, one thing for sure, we have a lot of work to do. I heard the other day, I read a piece where Pope Francis, a man I admire, actually, we had a caller call in some time ago railing about this man. Actually called him a master manipulator, like any other religious leader. And I suppose there's always been some manipulative quality to many folks in the hierarchy of religious organizations. But I don't routinely condemn people without knowing what's going on. I like to get to know where people are coming from, and especially where they're coming from in the heart. Not just what they say, but where they're coming from in the heart. And I've kind of tuned into this man's heart. I don't know how you don't see it. And what he had to say the other day that really made me take notice is he said that basically we've been at this world war now for some time, but we've just been doing it incrementally. It's an interesting way to phrase it. The world is at war once again, but conducting the wars incrementally. And that's a sad statement, but it's a true statement. And of course, there's the physical, violent kinds of war, and then there are the less obvious uh, battles that people wage against one another. It just seems like strife is the inevitable aspect of this life. And it begs for a counter or opposing force. The force of reason, the force of active peacemaking. And so that's what my wife and I have been doing more of. And I have to credit her with really spearheading this, getting some organization to it, informing my work, actually, informing my work, putting new light on it, putting new light on it. In the past, much of my work has been dedicated to making a convincing, rational case for abandoning some of our traditional notions about why people do the things that they do, and therefore coming to terms with a problem that I see as fairly insidious and hurtful to our well-being, this character crisis that we face. But this newly informed perspective that I have has given whole new purpose to my life's endeavor. It's about healing. It's about healing wounds. It's about touching hearts in a way that only loves and doesn't doesn't destroy. You know, when we try to when we delude ourselves. That's it. I'm searching for words here. It's so hard to express this new information that I have. But when we try, when we delude ourselves into thinking that we can buy our security, that we can make enough money, amass enough power. These are all the tempting solutions. Power is a solution. If I can have enough power, I can make everything right. If I have enough power, then I can put everything in the right order, and then there will be safety and security. Or if I have enough money, or if I have enough social prestige. You know, there are all these delusions that we entertain about what's going to make us safe and secure. But the fact is that none of us can buy a second's time. We're all living on borrowed time. It's all a gift. Every bit of it is a gift. We're not entitled to anything. And at any given point in time, at any given point in our daily existence, at every single moment, the only appropriate response is the loving one. That's the only appropriate response. Seems like that's what we're here to learn. How to love. We didn't know how to do that. We don't know how to do that right out of the chute. We crave it. Right as infants, helpless infants, so totally dependent. It's what we crave. It's what our hearts and souls yearn for. That safe, intimate connection. And it seems like that's what so eludes us in our daily lives. It's why so many relationships fail. We don't know how to do it. We just don't know how to do it. There's no instruction book. Life doesn't come with an instruction book. And those that try to guide us along the way, they're damaged themselves many times, and they can't teach us. So there's a grand story here. We have a speaker coming as part of our activities for the Pilgrimage for Peace. He's a world-renowned peace activist by the name of John Deere, and he's going to be coming and talking about really the gospel of peace. What people have just forgotten about the good news and the real messages behind what Christians call the Beatitudes. which are not really blessings at all, has to do with happiness. The happy, content, peaceful soul, the soul that's full of joy, the soul that knows nothing but love. And among those are the peacemakers. And I read through several different translations to come up with a composite translation that accurately reflected the meaning. Because, translating from, especially from Koine Greek, street Greek, the language of the common folks, that language is open to so much interpretation. It's not funny. There are so many meanings for various words. But probably most appropriately translated would be this one particular happiness quote would go like this. Happy are those persons who work for peace, or who do the labor, the active labor of making peace, of nurturing peace. Happy are they because they both recognize themselves and are recognized by others for who they are. Sons and daughters of the divine force that brought everything into existence. The all-powerful force that exploded in the Big Bang, or imploded in the Big Bang, or spoke in the Big Bang, created everything and keeps everything in existence, continues to move the universe. That energy that we've tried to label in every kind of way possible, but can barely even comprehend. So happy are those who do that labor. Happy in the pit of their soul, in their hearts, because they recognize their place. They get it. And they're at peace. And they're happy and they're filled with joy. Now, I know some people, basically do things, what appear to be generous, altruistic things, basically to feel good about themselves. In an ego stroking way. But active peacemaking goes beyond this. It's going into the lion's den. Extending a hand even to your enemies. Reaching out even to those who not only disagree with you, but may even want to do you harm. Scary proposition, isn't it? Daunting. Takes a lot of faith. And it takes a lot of love. And takes a lot of recognition. But really, when you stop and think about it, there is no alternative. We cannot guarantee a single minute to ourselves. It's a delusion. It's a delusion. Make a lot of money, save, then enjoy yourself playing golf or whatever the case may be. Soak up as much pleasure as you can before you croak. And that's the happy life. At least you'll die having done it. But you're still going to die. It takes a real sincere, not just faith in something more, but an awareness of something more. Something much bigger than us. That's the first commandment that I wrote about, and that I'll be writing more about, and that I'll be hopefully polishing up in the final edition of the book to be coming out at the end of the spring. We belong to something bigger. It's not all about us. It's never been. There's not one of us so precious or essential to the universe that it simply can't do without us. And yet, each one of us has a place in it. A unique place. We're supposed to be here. So when we get it right is we see where we are in the vast scheme of things. And then we neither take ourselves so seriously, nor do we completely discount ourselves, because we have a role. We have a role. And it's knowing what it is. Wow. Well, I'm sorry that we didn't hear from anybody tonight. I know we've had some problems with the phones. We're going to be wrapping up the program here tonight. Kind of a heavy, thought-provoking program, I'm aware, but it's one I've been wanting to do for a while. And I have to tell you, I think the program is going to be changing its complexion in the coming months. It's going to be changing its complexion a lot, as a matter of fact. Character Matters is going to be moving in a different direction. And I think it may also, well, I know it is, at some point it's going to be changing its theme song. It may even lose some audience. Then again, it may gain some. But it's going to do what I feel a natural call, what I feel a call to a natural evolution to do. And that is to be more about bringing some higher principle to play than just those principles that build sound individual character. It's about rescuing the earth. Of course, that starts with us. So I hope you'll stay with us. I hope you'll tune in again next week. And I thank you for tuning in this week to another edition of Character Matters. I'm Dr. George Simon. See you next time. Have a good night. And if you're listening out there, I hope you're well.